Hey there everybody, Robert Taylor with Wonderscape Creations doing another video for our crafting system working with Narrative Pro. Before we get started, I do just want to state that I understand that we've been rushing through and I haven't been explaining much on the widgets right now. I do intend to, once the widgets are put together, to walk you through the steps and the logic so that you do understand how it's all working together. Because although yes, widgets are done in Blueprint, it's a whole nother beast and a whole nother monster. And if you're like me, you hate widgets. You hate doing the code, you hate working on them, but it's a necessary evil until you find a guy who likes doing it. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start in the crafting inspector. We're going to get all of that logic done in the crafting inspector and then get all the logic done in the buttons. And then, like I said, I will walk you through how it is all connected when we create the final widget that houses both the inspector and the crafting recipe list. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the widget looking like a widget. First thing we want is an overlay. And another thing that I want to do before we get started is we're going to do custom 700 and 700, just how I choose to do it. Now then back to our overlay. Want to make sure that nothing is modified. Okay, nope. The next thing we want is a vertical box. All right. And with this vertical box, we want to stretch and stretch. I think that's all we've done in it. It is. The next thing we want is a common text item name. Wow. WBP narrative common text block. There we go. We'll select that. I'm going to name it item name. This variable. We have this at the padding will be 12 all around. And we'll go to the left and centered. For now, we will have it say item name. We'll come down here. Okay, that's kept the same. We'll change this to upper. The next thing we want is a horizontal box. If I can spell horizontal box, there we go. The horizontal box we will set to fill. It's stretched. I think that was everything. It was. The next thing we want is a size box. And for the life of me, I can't tell you why I did it this way, but we're going to do it. Turn all these on. And we will change it to 150. Copy, paste. Everything will be 150. Okay, it's all stretched. I don't know why the size box is not showing 150 at the moment, but I know by the end it should all be fine. Now that we have that size box, we want an overlay. size box. Okay. Then once we're done with that, we're going to want an item thumbnail. For that, obviously that's an image. Place that here in the overlay. We want it centered and centered. For now, we will put the default item thumb right there. Image size. I'm going to keep it as it is. I don't know why the X and Y was changed to begin with. And lastly, we want, before we do that, obviously we want this to change. We need to call this item thumbnail. Make it a variable. It's currently up to you to change. I haven't set this up yet. Anyways, now we need our common border. I have this set to outline underscore primary. Okay. Down into here. Making sure everything is identical. Okay. All right. Now we want the other issue that we have with that. I just noticed. Go back up here. We need to stretch these out over it. There we go. Now let's go ahead and get another overlay. We want to put this in the horizontal box. Sorry, some of the things that I was doing don't make sense now at this point, but we'll find out why in a minute. Okay. After that, we want a narrative button text. Place that right there. Stretch it just like that. And we'll hit so that's why that's the way it is. That's fine though. We'll call this craft. Center it. Okay. Keep that as is for now. There's something selected here. Under input. There we go. Hide input action with keyboard. We'll remove that. There's one other thing that gets moved. Triggering input action. We have that set to narrative input action and use item. that gets set up. Now, this focusable needs to be turned off as well. Excuse me. Okay. That's everything we needed to change in there. Next, we need an additional overlay. But this time, we're done with the horizontal box. So back into the put that in the wrong spot there, didn't I? No, I didn't. They just for some reason decided to open it up. One second. Something's not adding up in my brain. All right. Now that we have this overlay, let's take a look, see what we need to do. This overlay, we have it set to fill, center and center, or fill, and fill. And I think that is everything with that. It is. We now need a common border. With the common border being an outline primary. We're going to fill that up. Then we need a vertical box added in here. This vertical box will have a padding of 12. And down here, clip to bounds is important. Otherwise, if stuff goes beyond it, it's still going to show us what's there, despite it being outside of the bounds. So we want that removed, that little feature. Instead, it'll scroll. That's what we're going to be doing in a moment. Now we will get a narrative common text. Yeah. Yep. And we will put this as a 2 auto to the left and in the middle. Materials needed. H2 and H2. And we will make this to upper. Okay. Next, we want a scroll box. Place that in the vertical box here. We will name this one description. Make it is variable. We want to fill it. Centered and centered. Vertical, visible. Looks like everything else stays exactly how it is. Yep. And then we get ourselves a uniform grid panel. We're going to place that in the description. And we will name it materials box. Make it a variable. Be auto fill. Okay. That's how we keep it. Perfect. And lastly, we need to do one more overlay. We're almost done. Inside this vertical box. And we want this vertical box, this overlay to also be fill. I believe that's all I got changed in there. It is. And we want a vertical box here inside this overlay, just like with the last one, with a padding of 12, spaced out and kept up at the top. And then within there, we want a narrative common text block. And similar to last, we'll put 2 here to the left. We'll call this description. Just want to make sure I spelled it right. Test for H2. We want this to be upper. All right. And now we want a rich text block. I'm honestly surprised that it was set to rich text block and not common rich text block. We're going to make it common. That's why. Never mind. I think I found what the problem was. Oh, no. Right there. So we'll keep it rich text underscore narrative inventory. This part I'm playing around with it a little bit because I'm not 100% sure. We want to put a 12 on the left here. And for the text, once I find it, right there, it's been left empty. And to the left, not justified. We're going to see how this works. It does make sense. So not use the common one. If it doesn't work, we know why, and I'll come fix it. Fulfill. All right. And finally, we want one more common border. This overlay. Outline primary. Center or stretch and stretch. And that is everything. We now have our entire inspector ready. So let's go ahead and get the code done. Let me check the time here. See how badly this is going to be. If I recall correctly, there's a lot of its own code in here. Oh, no, there's not. Okay, let's get this done. So first things first, we don't need the pre-construct or the tick. So let's go ahead and get rid of those. We actually don't need the construct either. Oh, yeah. We don't need any of those. Instead, we need event on activated. And so it's called content. All right, there's one that I did not. That's that right there. Let's go back into the design, this vertical box, content, this variable. And now we'll get content, set visibility, do the function, not the variable, please. Do it correctly. We'll set it to visible. And then we'll do event on deactivated. Copy paste. Content hidden. Perfect. Now we need to come back in here into the designer because we need the view model. So grab this, select it, come in here. Oops. And we'll select, oh my goodness, my brain is not wanting to work at the moment. There we go. Global, and it was crafting VM. Perfect. And once we've done that, we'll come in here to the bindings. And again, before I create one of those, we need a crafting component. Crafting reference. Crafting. Now that we have our component, hit compile, add widget. We'll get the main widget here so that we can get our crafting reference, just like that. Hit select. We'll come in here, our view model, get crafting component, select, compile. There we go. Everything is ready to go. Come in here to the craft again. And we need to set something up right here using our crafting component. Oh, not that. Crafting ref. Bind event. No, it's bind. Wow. Bind on crafted. We're going to call this now. If you recall, we created it in the crafting system. Create event. No, not function. Custom event on crafted. There's a function we will be making in a second for that. I wanted to make sure we had it ready. The next thing we want is for our button here. So I'm going to come back in here to designer, select craft. And now I see why this is set up the way that it is. Let me fix that real quick because I'm not okay with this doing it this way here. So I'm going to wrap this. Wrap with vertical box. And what we will do now is fill and fill. Strangely, oh, this right here. Come here to the vertical box. It also does fill and fill. I need to see what the difference is right here. 1 second. All right, for the size box, I didn't hit fill, so now everything is equal again, as it should be. It's how I've been creating it. But anyways, what was I coming in? Oh, that's right. Select on the button that we have here that says craft. Scroll all the way down to the bottom to see available events. Enable the is variable. Oh, right, is variable. Okay. Button use. I'm going to name it button use. And we want to select the on clicked. So we'll select that right there. The first thing we want to get is the crafting reference and is recipe locked. Hold down the B to get a bool, or a branch rather. And we will need a recipe reference, which we will get in a moment. So the first thing we'll do is come here. Actually, I can do it right here, just like this. What's variable? Recipe ref. Just like that. So create the variable for it. That way we don't have to remember to put it back. Under crafting recipe, can unlock recipe. At which point we will get our recipe reference again. Hold down B for a branch. Then we will get our crafting reference once more. Not enough research points. We'll go into the false. For the true, we want to get our button and set button text to craft. Compile there. Because we can't do true yet, because now we need to make it. Oh, yes, we can do true now. Recipe reference. We'll need that. And the crafting reference. Where is it? We'll need that. From the crafting, we'll do load recipe data. There we go. So we got that functionality down. Now we need to do the stuff that loads the information based off of a few things, based off of the buttons that we select from the crafting list. So first we're going to create a custom event. We're going to name it get recipe data. And we will add an input for S recipe. We will set this right here. At which point we will break to get the recipe, async load asset, hide pens to make it look cleaner. Then out of here, get crafting data asset, remove that from the top pin to the completed pin. At which point we now need to make another custom event. And we'll call this update material widgets. Now the reason we're separating this is because we're going to need to call this at another location. So I separated these two sets of events. So we need this to be a recipe data asset. So we'll add an input of recipe data asset item update material widget. Now, so that we don't forget, let's come up here where we did the bind. Update material widget. that's now completed. Let's come back down here. And we will get the crafted item. Async load. Cast to narrative item class. Remove that to the completed. Populate. We now need to create the function. I have this as a function because more will be added later. Right now it's fairly small. This is where you would change the thumbnail and stuff as well. So we'll update. Well, we'll create a function, called populate recipe data. And we will create an input for narrative item class reference. Narrative item, to which we will get class defaults. And we will now get the name, item name, set text to the display name, and then the description, set, that may be why. That's why they do it. So let's jump back into the designer for the description here. Right here, we made this a common rich text block, but instead we need to make this, because apparently it's not available otherwise, a rich text block. Place that. Actually, I think I can change it. Can I change it? Yes. Rich text block. There we go. So everything stayed the same. I hope. No, it did not. Let's go ahead and fix that. Couldn't remember why it was set that way. I should have just left it the way that it was to save time. So we will change this to rich text narrative inventory. We will keep that. Okay, yes, 12. Let's make sure nothing else was changed here, as I'm sure there was. Yep. Come here to auto wrap text. And it looks like everything stays the same. I will name this description. Okay, that's fine. Item description is variable. Hit compile. Not sure why that happened. Let's refresh the node. Hit compile. There. Now back into our populate. We don't need the description anymore. Apparently it thinks description is still there. Find references by name. We have none. Let me pause this real quick because I've made a mess of something. 1 second. This is why you don't have things named similarly. Sometimes you get things mixed up, but we are fine now. Let's go back into our function that apparently I deleted while I was going back on a few things. Populate recipe data. Input narrative item. Okay, so now we need oh, I'm in the wrong place. Yes, I am. Back in here, there's my populated thing. Silly me. Item description, set text. Okay, we'll get the description right there. We can hide what's not being connected. For now, that's all we have in here. Like I said, I haven't gotten what's I'm looking for, icons and everything to change things like this. So things that you want to change, you would just put in this function. Let's come back in here to this, to our event graph. And after this, we want to populate recipe data. Now we need our material box. Clear children. Important to make sure that you always clear the children. And then we will pull out of here. Crafting requirements. Bring that over here. Just like this. Okay. And we want a for each loop. And we will break this. We need both of them. Now, technically, you could wait to break it on the other side, but because of how functions work now, I kind of like having two inputs, and I'll show you why in a minute. We need to create one more function called create material stat widget. So the first input will be the material. So let's find it. What did I name it? Material item. No, apparently I kept it as a narrative item. Okay. Class reference. Material. Plus sign. Required quantity. And we'll make this a integer. And now we can get started. What we do, we'll jump back into the graph and get the create material stat widget. Make sure everything plugs in correctly. All right. Now let's hop back into our function. There's quite a few things we need to do. First thing we need is to get our crafting component reference, at which point we now get inventory. We need the function, not the well, they're both functions, but we need the green F function. And we'll do has item, and we are going to get material. Remember, it's got an F, so it's pulling that right there. Hold down B for a branch. And we'll do the false side first because there's less to do there. We can copy and paste that. False, we want to create widget. It's going to be of type item stat. This is created by narrative, not something that I've created, so easy to find. And we will get owning player. And then for the stats, we will actually get material defaults to get the class defaults. For the stat, we want the display name. For the tooltip, we want the description. And for this, for the value, we will append. We'll do 0, because we know for a fact we have 0 because we didn't find it in the inventory. Out of required quantity. Just like that. Now we're not quite done. Next, we need to first get the common text stat value. We're going to set the style. We need to make this style. We haven't made it yet, so let's give me a second here. We'll do that in a second. And we'll get the material box. Add child to uniform grid. And then we will add this right there, just like that. Grab our material box. Get children count. First, we'll get it, make a divide by 2. And then we'll get a modulos. I typed mod and it gives me this, which is what you want. 2 to the column. And then we want to set horizontal alignment to fill. Perfect. Now we need to create our style. So to do that, I'm going to quickly and easily get the original from my notes. So we're looking for this one. What we want to do now is I created a new folder. I don't think I created a new folder. 1 second, let me check. Then we will end this episode once we have this code done. Yeah, we're 45 minutes in, so we're going to quickly get this code done, then clean things up, and explain how this is all interconnected for you guys. So we need to create our red font. If you recall in the very first episode, we had the font be red if we didn't have enough. So we need to set that up now. So what we need to do is find in the engine plugins. Obviously, if you have it directly within your project, you're not going to have to search as deeply as me. So I'm just going to hit plugins here and search for text style underscore master underscore primary underscore h2. So this is what's currently being used. We're going to open it up so that we have an easy sight of it, because we're going to be duplicating this. And where we're going to be duplicating it is, I'm going to create within the systems, within Narrative Pro, create a new folder called UI. Within that folder, I'm going to name it fonts. This is where I'm going to place it. So let's go back to where it's at. And then I'm going to drag it into here, all the way up to the top, into fonts. I'm going to hit copy. Come in here into my new fonts. I will rename it primary underscore red underscore h2 and make it red. Okay, compile and save. Now that we have it, I'll leave them both open for now so they're easy to find. We're going to come in here. I'm going to search for red. There we go. Now it'll be red. Copy and save. And I do believe that that's everything for this section of it. Yep, not much to it. Now let's get the true taken care of. Let's grab the whole thing here. Copy and paste. There's a lot more to do. Let's minimize that. So what we need to do first is this obviously isn't going to be a 0. If it's in the inventory, we need to know how much is in the inventory. So let's go ahead and get that taken care of. So first we need the crafting component. We need to get inventory, find item by class. We will get our material. Right there, just like that. Get quantity. Plug that in right there. Just like that. It's the first part that is different. There's one more thing that'll be different after this. Okay. The next thing we need to do is right in here where we set the style. There's going to be a difference. So let's pull this aside just like this. Bring that down. Bring these down. So first we need this just like this. Copy this whole thing, paste it right in here. Shows us that we need quite a bit more space. So we'll do this. And that. We bring this in here. So we want, if the quantity is greater than or equal to the required quantity, then we want to select it. So we'll pull out of here, search for select. Oops. Place that in there. So now, for false, we want the red one. So we can just easily search for red. For true, we want the one that we duplicated. the textile underscore master underscore primer underscore h2. That way it sets it up correctly. We can compile and save that. Now we'll come into the event graph to make sure everything is connected before we end this episode. It looks like we have everything connected as it should be. So we will end this episode here, and the next one we will make the final widget, and then I will explain how it's all interconnected so that you're not confused and trying to figure it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.